Good morning, world. This is me. This is Friday morning, March 20th, in LA County, and I am the new pandemic czar for my company. That means I have to keep track of the situations of their health and how their local municipalities are handling things. And the big news, of course, is here in California, we're officially expected to stay in place. So here's some news that's happened up through this week that I've been involved with. Number one, what's new is that my source from the LAPD says that Skid Row is actually going to be cleared. So I don't know where they're going to take the people. The first guess is 29 Palms out in the desert. I know there's a Marine base out there, which probably has some extra housing. I know that the city of El Segundo has picked out, they're buying some RVs, so if they have people who are need to be isolated, they're going to put them down on Darkweiler Beach over near the Scattergood Power Station. In fact, the South Bay and El Segundo in particular has a very good piece of bulletin that you should be able to get to from my site when you go through the LA County page. The number as of yesterday is 231 validated cases and 2 deaths. One of those is a man who was 38 years old from Glendora, and he was the one brought into the Pasadena hospital that I think was the second death. And he was in Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and so that was a highly dangerous place to be in terms of there being a lot of crowds. Here, where I am, I have all the drugs that I need. I got my 90-day supply, so I should be good. The Housing Association has closed down the clubhouse and the pool, so I do see people on my morning walks and jogs that are still jogging around the neighborhood, but of course we are in an enclosed, secure position, so that's good. Everybody watched the videos about the knuckleheads in Clearwater Beach, Florida, who kept wanting to turn it up no matter what. And I've also had to do a little myth busting. Excuse me. Am I clearing my throat? About a rumor that you could kill the virus by sitting in a sauna. And that was debunked on the Joe Rogan podcast on the 11th. So don't think that you can take a hair dryer and stick it up your nose and cure yourself. Our food stocks are good and they're being replenished. People have reported that they're going to Smart and Final, and all the toilet paper they want in the world is there. So I don't think anybody doubts that we're going to have good food supplies, and we're not going to worry about that. With regard to talk that you're hearing, I would make it a rule that if the scientist or expert is not talking about comparisons to Zika or SARS or MERS, then you're probably not going to learn anything other from them. And I like what Eric Weinstein said this morning on the podcast that I was listening. Don't listen to people trying to manage you. Listen to people who are trying to give you the broader strategic picture. And that's what you need to do to get informed. I know everybody's not going to read the big books, but you should be reading as much as possible. This morning over on Quora, I asked the question, how long does it take a pneumonia versus a coronavirus to replicate? That is to say, how fast do they grow? And if you have an idea how fast they grow, then you can have an idea how many generations it might take with an average number of mutations, so that you can understand a little bit more about how germs that we know about that live in birds, like avian flu, H1N1, can mutate so that they can live in other kinds of creatures and then possibly pass on to mankind. This is always a dynamic situation. Human immunity changes, the viruses change, it's a war, it's back and forth, it's spy versus spy. There's been a lot of political talk, and the biggest story, I think, is about Zimmer and Bolton running the global health security biothreat aspect of the National Security Council. and everybody's making a big deal that, they were fired. That organization had a budget in 2018 of $322 million, which is barely a sneeze in the congressional budget. It costs less than one F-22, and I think the Navy's going to order 300 of those. So there's really nothing I think that could be done. Or I like the analogy is the exit doors on the burning theater were too small to begin with. And the question you should be asking is not how to get in front of the person in front of you, but why those doors, they didn't invest in bigger doors. So we should have strategic reserves of ventilators. We should have strategic reserves of all these things to handle the epidemic, much less a pandemic. So I really like the Wall Street Journal editorial this morning, which is "Make America the Strategic Medicine Chest for the World." So that's going to involve things that the government must do, that private industry can't be incented to do without some guarantees from the government of backing. And so this idea of giving everybody $1,000, we're not all going to do that little piece of genetic research and stockpiling of vaccines and antivirals that's going to help strategically to deal with a super bug, which we're really not dealing with yet. So that's an important kind of lesson that I want to leave. Also, the Stoics and the IDW are on Discord, and we're having some pretty good, interesting discussions over there. So if you haven't, you might want to check out the intellectual dark web for Los Angeles by our fearless leader, Eric. And we're on Discord, and we also have a live channel so that you can speak. That's about all for this morning. Stay healthy. Take care.